seed. I think even the Most High knew, he know that it's hard to get even a mustard seed of faith up. He asks you for the smallest amount of faith. You apply a mustard seed and watch him do something small, it'll give you enough courage to try more. My life was so crazy. I'm at a point of saying, why should I trust you? How do I trust you? I almost feel like, other than being able to see the world, it almost feel like it ain't even no evidence of you. I love my mama and my daddy. In a real conversation, sometimes I done been like, why did you even pick them as my parents? I've seen people, I don't know these people's parents, but I've seen people get picked up as car riders and just looking at what kind of car they was in and how they mama or daddy got out and picked them up. It was certain people I remember looking at what type of lunch boxes they had and what type the sandwiches was cut and they chips and they juice, and then they had a letter in their lunch boxes. I can remember thinking, why I didn't get them kind of parents. I can remember riding through certain neighborhoods, or even in Halloween before I quit celebrating holidays, because that's the enemy. I can remember being in certain neighborhoods, huge houses, these folks giving the regular size candy bars away. And I'm thinking to myself, how didn't I end up in these types of situations? Listen to what I'm telling you now. I can remember seeing people dressed in Tommy Hilfiger and Polo and having certain things. And I can remember coming into the trailer park, loved it to death, rat holes in the corner of the trailer, going in the refrigerator, eating what's left, or what. I'm not saying that we didn't have food. I can remember seeing the oven open with it on because we needed the extra heat to flow through the house. I can remember so many things when I look back at what happened to me, being molested by a family member. I can remember walking in my house, it was broke in, my mama dating the biggest dope boy. I can remember fights and shootouts. It's so much I remember. And when I look at that, and I get to a place of desperation because now I'm facing life in prison for a choice, first and foremost. But secondly, I felt with circumstance. Circumstance plays a major part in our life. It's too many people that'll say, well, you knew what you was doing and such, the way y'all was living, you deserve. I did deserve to be in prison. Somebody lost their life. I do understand now that it was a choice that I made. But let me tell you something about circumstances. Circumstances are a real thing. When they talk about being a product of your environment, it is a real thing. When you've been around people that talk a certain way, walk a certain way, live a certain way, and that's all you know, I promise you, you will become that. If you look at other examples of what they were raised around, who trained them, who helped them, you watch them become that. When you look at the Steph Curry's, his daddy was in the league. One of the top shooters. What did he become? One of the top shooters. It's so many examples that you can see, learn behavior by circumstance. Certain things happen. Guess what? My daddy was in prison. My daddy in prison. My uncle in prison. My granddaddy went to prison. His daddy went to prison. I can go on and on and on and on and on. People don't believe in generational curses. I can give you so many circumstantial things that added up to that statistically would show 8 times out of 10, oh, he's going to prison. 8 times out of 10, he's going to live a street life. 8 times out of 10, he's going to sell drugs. He's around nothing but drug dealers. Circumstantial. Listen to me. This gonna explain where it looked like you had it. I don't care what school you went to. I don't care. I come home. Guess what? Environment is toxic. The environment is toxic. My mama and stepfather at the time, always into it. What you think gonna happen? What you think later on in life this is about to turn into? Huh? Circumstance. And then you end up in that situation. And now I'm sitting in here at 18, just turned 19 years old. I'm sitting in a cell, facing life in prison. 19, I'm 19, my daughter 3 or 4 at the time. 19 years old. People on the phone telling me to pray. Officers that come to the door telling me to pray. I'm sitting there here talking to myself saying, if he is real, why even put me in this circumstantial situation? He said he knew me before the womb. He knew you before the womb. He knew that family member was going to touch you. He knew that them parents was going to enable you. He knew that them people were going to neglect you. He knew. So when I had these conversations with myself, he knew that was going to be a shootout. He knew how I was going to start selling. He knew my daddy was going to plug me in to be a gangster disciple. He knew my daddy was going to plug in my brother to become one of the biggest dope boys that was going to eventually make me. He knew. So when I sit back and say, believe him for what? Now, I don't mind having real conversation because this how the scales fall. This how your ears open up. This how that stone heart turned into flesh. Because when I'm talking past tense now, I'm talking about a heart of stone. He knew at that. I'm sitting there saying, do what? What am I praying for? I'm praying out of desperation. I ain't praying because I believe. I'm praying because I feel like he owed me something. I'm praying because not only do I feel like he owed me something, I feel like I need another chance. Not only that, I'm feeling, do what? Life in prison. I'm facing life in prison, well deserved, if you let the world tell it. And then I'm sitting here knowing it's a lot of people on this live know what you capable of, but because of circumstances, you feel like you can't come to their full potential. Because of the financial situation, you feel like you can't afford to do what you see. You know for a fact, because of what you are product of with the people, it's hard for you to convince your mind that you can become more because you never see nobody from your lineage, from your bloodline become more. You sitting there, you wondering, how is it that I become an overcomer to a different level? Not I just moved away and I have a better job and I don't fool with my family. I'm saying, how do I become the more that I really envision and see? How is it that I really build, put my whole family on, get them to see a bigger picture? How is it that I actually start a community? Because that's what I see. That's what I notice in me. But then I'm looking at the only examples and saying, it ain't never happened. The only superheroes I know that I have to collect myself to make sure I don't idolize is a bunch of celebrities that I ain't never been able to get around and touch. Never have I had a conversation with them. Never had I had a hug. My only inspiration is I know they came from nothing. I don't know exactly how they did it, but that's the only example I know that makes it seem like it's possible. But then when you look at your mama, daddy, uncles, cousins, the alcoholics, the drug addicts, when you look at the people who've been on factories all their life, and then you look at people who come from the projects and this and that, and you watch generation after generation after generation after generation, nothing. You have to, life and death is in the power of the tongue. You have to start talking to yourself. Because if you don't start talking to yourself, you're going to start to accept that that's the only thing that I can become. Same way they done the king. When they said, that Joseph and Mary's son right there, that's the carpenter. They said, we ain't never seen nothing coming out of that. What? You know how many people feel the same way? Man, that's that's Tanya's son right there. Who, Boo? Little Boo Bacon? Man, that's Tanya's son. That boy right there, huh? Excuse me, but God. Listen. That's Tanya's son right there. You talking about Joe T, the one locked up, that Joe T boy, huh? But who? But God. Quit playing. But back to the mustard seed. It's saying in all of that, I need you to understand something. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Listen to what I'm finna explain. Greater is he that is in you See, what you got conflicted is the he that is in you that is greater than he that is in the world has not been activated and fed. You need to be resuscitated and revived because the he that is in you is laying dormant. You don't understand the power that's really in you. The only thing you know of is the world that's operating around you in your natural senses. So you operate in your natural senses and you got natural responses. And then you end up in natural consequences. And you thinking the thing that you done benefited was, listen to me, them was natural benefits. So by the time all of this stuff started working, that's all you know. But you don't know the greater that's he that is in you than he that is in the world. So when I'm sitting in the cell and my scales fell off, listen what I'm going to tell you. By the time my scales fell off and I started speaking to my inner man, he started speaking to my inner man. And then I started reading and feeding that inner man. I started seeing the deception. That's why it's easier for me now to apply the mustard seed. It's easy for me to apply the mustard seed now because I know the level of deception that was working to keep me from who I've been called to be. What I ain't gonna let you do is fill me with hatred, fill me with anger, fill me with bitterness, continue to fill me with frustration and confusion when I know now it was designed that way. When he said he knew me from the beginning, he also knew a blessing was for me in the beginning. He also knew it was favor for me, it was grace for me, it was mercy for me. But the only thing I allowed is I let you trick me out of my position, my rightful position, because nobody fed the greater that was in me than he that was in the world. I let them feed me the he that was in the world. I let them feed me selling dope was the only way that I could get on. Doing this and doing that was the only way I can get on. Not being married was what I'm thinking. You don't got to trust a woman. You don't got to. I'm thinking the worldly way. That's why he said, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I started feeding he that is in me than he that is in the world. And once I started doing that, I said, you know what? I don't mind applying no mustard seed.